Ohayo gozaimasu, konnichiwa, or konbawa. Hello and assalamu alaikum to everybody around the world. Now, this video is going to be a little different. I've never actually done something like this, but I felt the need to and the urge to in this particular situation. Now, there's a YouTuber named Nobita, I believe. His channel's called Find Your Love in Japan. He recently made a video called Is Japan Islamophobic? Can Japan accept Muslims? Let me give you a little preview.
Did you notice? In Japan, the number of Muslims is increasing nowadays. There are just 30,000 Muslims in Japan in 1982, but now the number is around 100,000. I know, compared to European countries or US, it's still not so many actually, less than 0.1% of all the population. Having said that, maybe a lot more Muslims are coming to Japan in the future because of the recent many terrors. Many countries are getting harder on Muslims, which I totally understand that, and maybe because of that.
Okay, so first of all, this is not an attack upon you, Nobita, nor is it a way to make you look wrong. It's just a way for me to clarify what I believe you said in the whole video was not exactly 100% correct. Okay, number one, you subconsciously already talked about Islam and then terrorism, right? They don't go together. Now, I can give you a million proofs, which I will in this video, God willing, but to automatically assume, oh, we have to be careful so Muslims don't come in, like, for example, Donald Trump, oh, Muslims don't come in, they'll be terrorists. You know you're more likely to have a domestic terrorist. Do you know even in Japan itself, there was that guy who, I forgot his name, who killed those disabled people. That was terrorism in its form, in a different form. There's no Muslim doing terrorism there. And don't say it's because they're not allowed in, because they're allowed in Japan. So my point here is, just from the beginning, you're correlating Muslims and terrorism. They don't go hand in hand, and I shall proceed to prove that right now. From authentic Islamic sources and from the words of Muslims themselves, not from the word of an American friend who has some hatred in his heart or ignorance against Islam, not from CNN or BBC or ITV or whatever. The verses in the Quran regarding fighting are related to war, not randomly going on a train and blowing yourself up, or on a plane and blowing yourself up. No, no, no. As Canada Jin already clarified to you, killing yourself is completely forbidden. And what do? They kill themselves and they justify it, but not from the text, from emotional arguments. So yes, they are Muslims, but they're misguided Muslims. They're completely doing un-Islamic things. For example, if a Muslim drinks alcohol, does that make Islam accept alcohol? No. It just simply means that Muslim is sinning and he's doing a bad thing. And the worse the crime, the worse it is, obviously. And killing is one of the worst crimes you can ever commit, if not the worst. So you have to understand the difference between Muslims, or people who claim to be Muslim, and Islam. And I'm going to show you that difference now. I'll tell you something, my friend. Muslims believe this as much as they believe their mothers are their mothers, and as much as they believe their fathers are their fathers. We believe in every single iota, every single dot, every single word. And by that, what I'm trying to say is, you cannot be a Muslim and reject a word of the Quran, because that takes you out of the fold of Islam. Understand? There's like rulings. For example, you can't be Christian without believing in Jesus, right? It's the follower of Christ, Christian. You cannot be a Christian. Similarly, you cannot be a Muslim and reject that part of it is not from God. Therefore, you believe there's something wrong with it. And the Quran promises that this book is preserved, the only religious scripture preserved in its entirety. So that point, maybe I can clarify it for you and explain it to you. Muslims believe in it 100%. And most Muslims understand the context of certain verses that might be misinterpreted. They understand that. That's why out of the almost 2 billion Muslims, you don't even have a fraction of a fraction causing mayhem around the world. Think about it. And think about the reasons these misguided people who claim to be Muslim are doing these things. Do you think they're doing it for fun or hatred? Isn't it a new thing that's been emerging recently? Why? Foreign policy, colonization. It's a reaction, and you will always get crazies from among the sane. Do you understand? Population of 1 million, say. This is not a real statistic, but just an example. Out of those 1 million people, you will have one insane person at least, or two, right? But when you scale things from those one or two and pre-impose that one or two craziness on the rest of the saneness, if you know what I'm trying to say. So 1 or 2 crazy people, 1 million sane people. You cannot say these 1 million are also crazy or have crazy intent. But I want you to think about something. And yes, it will require you to go to the past a little bit. Look at the past of, say, America, right? A great Japanese ally. Now, I have nothing against Americans. Yeah, I have nothing against America. But history speaks for itself. And actions speak louder than words. From its inception, incineration, and killing of Native Americans, right? And then, that was justified, right? Somehow, through their ancient media. And then, the enslavement of the blacks, right? And you see what's going on with the black people, right? You know, I don't need to explain. They were enslaved. So you look at the Native Americans and look at them now. A lot of them are addicted to alcohol and they're gamblers, and they've been completely, like, you know, destroyed. If the little that are left, they've been destroyed. Same with the black community. You talked about in a different video about the crime rate and blah blah blah. Well, yeah, because they've been tortured for the last God knows how many years and they haven't been given a chance. They've been set aside. Do you understand? You can't understand if you're only speaking to white Americans who are racist. You will understand if you're talking to white Americans who are not racist and can admit the wrongs that were done in the past. And I'm not saying it's any American's fault now. It was the previous ones, yes. But then you look at the nuclear bombs that were dropped. The only 2 nuclear bombs ever, and it's in your country, my dear friend Nobita. Your country. And yet, people have the audacity to talk about Islam and terrorism. What about American terrorism? Just because they have a suit and they're on the news and they give you McDonald's and Pepsi, right? No, let's be fair. Let's, like you said, stick with facts and talk logically. Now, I am speaking from pure logic and reasoning. You cannot dispute that. And if you do, like you always say, you're more than welcome to dispute it and maybe give me a valid answer to what I'm saying. And maybe I can't articulate it as good as someone else can, but I felt, like I said, the urge for this. But one thing I want to advise you sincerely is, if you ever want to know about Islam, if you ever want to know about Christianity, if you ever want to know about anything, don't go to the wrong sources. Especially when it's a touchy subject or a subject that needs clarification. Don't even think you can study it yourself, because you haven't got the tools and the understanding to study the text. Say if you just read a verse of the Quran, you don't know how to read it. You don't know what hadiths are. Yeah, you probably had no idea what Islam was before this. You wouldn't go to a mechanic to get a diagnosis for an illness. So similarly, don't go to an American friend. Don't go to a BBC. Don't go to anybody who's not qualified to talk about things. Don't even come to like normal Muslims, because they might not have the answers. They might not understand their religion properly 100%, or they might not be able to give you a sufficient answer because they haven't got the knowledge to answer you. But maybe go to an imam. Go to someone who can give you the correct and right answer. Does that not make logical sense, my friend? Now, I want to tell you, this isn't a watered down version of Islam, the anti-terrorism. It's not a watered down version. It's complete and utter orthodoxy. It is the Islam of the 6th century. Terrorism was forbidden then and it's forbidden now. For example, in Bukhari, which is the book of Muslims, not the Quran, it's the hadith, it's the sayings of the prophets and the life of the prophet, peace be upon him, Muhammad, peace be upon him. He forbade the killing of women and children. But what do terrorist organizations do? They kill women and children indiscriminately, with no discrimination. They don't care if you're a woman, you're a child, or even if you're a man. They don't care. So, on one hand, they're doing these terrible acts, and on the other hand, Islam says, don't do it. Now, Are they following Islam? These very few minute people, very few people. Are they following Islam? Certainly not. No. I like to give examples so you can understand. For example, Indonesia, the largest Muslim nation in the world. What army went there? What terrorism occurred there? There was no army. The largest Muslim nation in the world. What army went to West Africa? What killing occurred? No. So, I wouldn't say you've been brainwashed. I'd say people who have this view on Islam, their brains have been contaminated. Because if your brain was washed, it would be clean from any untruths. And certainly calling or associating Muslims and terrorism is a great untruth. Don't be duped. Don't be hoodwinked. Don't be tricked into the trickery of the liars. And be honest with yourself. Based on even your experience, be honest with yourself. Muslims greet each other with a saying, like I did in the beginning, Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be upon you. Not death be upon you. Peace be upon you. Is that a religion of terrorism? No. And if you ask all the major mainstream scholars, past, present, and God willing in the future, about terrorism, to say it's a sin, it's not allowed to kill people indiscriminately, non-combatants, people who are not fighting. This is clear cut. Yeah? Clear cut. There's no debate about it. The only debate that occurs is with those small fringe groups that you see on the TV and get all the attention. But they don't mention the pioneering of mathematics and chemistry and optics that Muslims did. They don't talk about the numbers you use, which are called the Arabic numerals, right? Even though they're not really Arabic, but they were made by Muslims. But you get the idea, the Islamic civilization. No, we only get negative media. And think about that. Why? Think about that. Do you really think Islam will be so popular in terms of conversions to its religion from a non-Muslim background? For example, Canada, do you really think people want to convert to terrorism? Do you really think people want to go into a religion of terrorism? Use your logic. Everything I've said, put it together. And listen, I'm not saying some Muslims don't commit terrible acts. They do. They certainly do. But does Islam sanction that? The answer is no. Not at all, not in the slightest. People can hate, no problem. People can lie, no problem. I mean, once things are clarified, if somebody wants to still hate, that's just the hatred in their heart. I mean, that's what I don't care about the haters. Let them hate. They're gonna hate regardless of the answers a Muslim gives to defend their religion. I'm trying to clarify to you because I believe you're sincere, Nopita. Sorry about if I'm getting your name wrong. I apologize. Because I believe you're sincere and you want the truth in every matter, be it this or be it Muslims or be it the Black African history of the enslavement of the Black Africans, or be it in any context, right? But then obviously you get the haters. Oh, beep Islam. They're not looking for the truth. They're not looking for clarification. They're just looking to be Donald Trump love boys and just just hate. I'm not interested in them. Bye bye. Go. I want to refer you to an organization called Islam Gaku. It's a Japanese organization in Japan that its sole purpose is to try and clarify misconceptions and let the Japanese public know what Islam really teaches, because many of them may be unclear and many of them might not know the reasons. For example, the hijab, why do women wear hijab, blah blah blah. It just tries to clarify, give the reasons. It's not saying agree with it. It's saying, look, these are the reasons, and maybe even if you don't agree, for example, with the hijab, you'll understand, oh, that's why they wear it. Okay, I don't agree with the cloth on a woman's head, no problem, but oh, they wear it for these reasons. Okay, now I understand. We can work, we can live together, no problem. I'm Japanese, you're Muslim, you don't mean any harm to me, I don't mean any harm to you. Let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya, my lord. Not that part, but you get what I'm trying to say. The more we understand each other authentically and in a real way, the more people can get along, be it Christians, be it Muslims, be it races or Japanese or black people. I have friends from all over the world, and they know I'm Muslim, and they know when it's time to pray I have to pray, and they know I can't eat pork, and they know I can't drink alcohol, and they know my beliefs. And some of my very close friends are non-Muslims, right? Does it mean that we can't get along just because of our differences? Does it mean we can't work together? No. But if you mean, do you want me to become like you? No, that will never happen. Because I am me, and I have my beliefs, and my beliefs are here. Yeah? My beliefs are inside, and the Muslims' beliefs are inside. Islam is not simply a religion, it's a way of life, a way to live life. From what to say before you eat, from what to say before you enter the toilet, from what to say when you get up. It's a system, it's if you like, an automation of life, a best way to do everything in our belief. And Japanese people have their way of life. Living in a globalized society now, living together is not an issue as long as you don't harm anyone. That's the important thing. As long as you don't force your ideas on people, like the Japanese don't force their ideas on the Muslims, and the Muslims don't force the ideas on the Japanese, and the Christians don't force the ideas on the Japanese, and you know what I'm trying to say. You can talk, you can dialogue, say, look, I believe this because of X, Y, and Z, or Z. And you can tell me, I believe this, and then difference is no problem, but the problem occurs when people can't hold back their emotions and become haters. Now, not everyone can do it, and not everyone should, talk about controversial issues, because they haven't got the capacity to handle such conversations. And regarding Muslim women wearing hijab at work, is there a problem? What's the problem? It's a piece of cloth on your head, which I understand can make people feel uncomfortable. It's a piece of cloth on a woman's head. That's all. And you can wrap it if you work in a restaurant or whatever. Is it because it's different and scary? Will it scare off the customers? I don't know. Is she hiding something? Let's move on from this way of thinking. Let's put it aside. Differences will always be there. Even in Japan, like it or not, Japan is part of the global world. And because the world is globalized, Japan will have Muslims. It will have Muslims in it. And it will have Christians in it. And it will have Jews in it. And it will have Hindus in it. And it will have atheists in it. Now, if you want to be just back to your old Japanese culture, then give back the McDonald's. Give back the numbers. Give back the technology that you are so good at developing. Give back all the things that were achieved through globalization and knowing one another and learning from one another. But no, it's just a fact of the reality of this world now is that everyone will be together in certain situations. Like in Japan, there's a few Muslims. In Japan, there's a few Christians. In England, there's a lot of Muslims compared to Japan. And there's a lot of Christians, and now there's even more atheists. Would it be fair to discriminate a Japanese person in the UK? No, of course not. But did you know discriminating against religion is more severe? I'll tell you why. Because religion is held in the heart. It's a belief. It transcends nationality and color. There are, for example, there are white Muslims, there are black Muslims, there are Japanese Muslims originally, there are Chinese Muslims, there are Muslims from everywhere, right? And they all have this common frequency, this common understanding of who God is, what we should do. And this is more dear to their hearts if they are practicing Muslims than the color of their skin or the food they eat. Because it's your consciousness, what you will keep with you when you die. You're not going to keep your bones and your nationality. Your DNA will disintegrate into the ground and all will be left with would be your bones. But the heart, this consciousness, the software is going to be extracted, and that's what's going to stay. So discriminating on headscarf is one thing. Not allowing it because it's part of the uniform is another thing. The intention of whoever is not allowing the hijab is only they hold the intention. I don't know their intention. But just to clarify, we don't have to change anything for anybody. Similarly, you don't have to change anything for anyone. But the only thing is, if you wanna get to know one another, if you wanna work with one another, no problem. Then we can do that. in conclusion, I might have talked a bit passionately, and it wasn't directed to in a rude way or in a way of belittling you. It's just that when I talk about things like this, I get passionate because, to be honest, Muslims are sick and tired of hearing Islam and terrorism. We pray 5 times a day to wash our hearts from any kind of illnesses like terrorism brings, right? And if you look at all these terrorists, half of them have criminal records previously, like drug related or fighting related. Let's come to a conclusion. Let's come into a common term. Muslims, and like, if a Muslim says we're not terrorists and he gives you proof, and we don't believe in terrorism and it's not in our religion, don't enforce. I'm not saying you are, but don't enforce your, whoever it may be. This is for the wider audience, including you, Nobita, but everyone else at the same time. Don't force your belief, your illegitimate belief, your wrong belief of Islam on Muslims who are saying, no, it's not like this, it's not like that. But yes, it is. No, I am that person. I am a Muslim. I know my book. I know my religion. And I listen to the scholars of the past and the scholars of the future. I know it. No, but you're terrorists. You all kill people. No, we don't. Oh God, leave me alone. God, CNN, BBC, YouTube, everybody's, whatever. Go, be a hater. Move. Get out. Go to the side. The reality is we are not. And I'd like to leave you with Islamic farewell. Ma'a salama, which means may peace be with you, or assalamu alaikum, peace be with you. Peace be with you, Nobita, peace be with you, viewers, and sincerely, I want you to know the facts, and us Muslims just want to live like everybody else. We're not terrorists, we're not bad people, and you acknowledge that, but the religion itself doesn't encourage terrorism, doesn't promote terrorism. Are you allowed to fight in defense? Yes. Are you allowed to push off the aggressor? Yes. Are you allowed to kill innocents? No. And that's what terrorism is: to use violence to persuade people towards what you want, in a nutshell. And is that sanctioned? No. The Prophet said so from his lips, the person who brought us Islam, the last revelation. The Quran says, do not kill an innocent person. It's like you kill the whole of humanity.